This is part 81 of C# tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss a simple example that demonstrates when to use a dictionary over a list in C#. Let's create a simple console application. When we run it, it should prompt us to enter a country code, and then if we enter a valid country code, then the program should display the name of the country and its capital. And then the program should be in a loop, so it should ask me whether if I want to continue, yes or no. If I enter any garbage instead of yes or no, then it should keep asking the same question: do you want to continue, yes or no? So if I enter yes, then it should ask me to enter the country code again. If I enter a valid country code, then it should display the name of the country and its capital. If I don't enter a valid country code, then it should print a message stating country code not valid. And then again it should ask me whether if I want to continue, yes or no. If I say no, then the program should terminate. Let's create this simple console application. So here I already have this country class. Look at this, it's very straightforward with 3 auto-implemented properties: name, code, and capital. And then within the main method, I've created 5 instances of this country class. So we have 5 countries here: Australia, India, US, UK, Canada. Alright, now first of all, let's design this program using a list collection class. Okay, so let's create a list. So list of country, and let's call this list countries equals new list of country. And then to this list, let's add country objects. So list countries dot add country 1, and similarly let's add country 2, 3, 4, and 5. So country 2, 3, 4, 5. So at this point, within this list we have 5 countries. So the first thing is we want to ask the user to enter the country code. So console.writeLine, please enter country code. And then obviously the user is going to enter the country code. Let's store it in a variable of type string, and let's call it str country code equals, and to read whatever the user has entered on the console, we use console.readLine. And then let's convert that to uppercase, because look at this, all the country codes are in uppercase. So let's convert them to uppercase. Alright, now what we need to do, we need to find the country object within this list, using that country code that the user has entered. And to find an object within a list, we can use find method, and obviously this is going to expect a predicate where we can specify our condition. So find within that list of countries a country such that country.code equals whatever the user has entered. Where do we have the code that the user has entered? In this variable. So let's compare it with that. And then obviously if a match is found, what is this method going to do? It's going to return that country object back. So let's store that in a variable of type country, and maybe let's call it result country. Okay, so if result country equal to null, then what does that mean? That means the country code, for the country code that the user has entered, we didn't find a match. So in that case we want to print a message stating country code is not valid. So country code not valid. If it is not null, then we know we have a matching country object, in which case we want to print the name of the country and the capital. So name equals a placeholder there, and capital equals another placeholder. Alright, so let's print the name of the country and the capital. Alright, okay, so let's go ahead and run this now and see if it works. So if I enter country code GBR, for example, look at that, I'm entering it in lowercase, but since we have converted that to uppercase, it should find it without any problem. So name United Kingdom, capital London, and then look at this, the program is terminating now. It asks me press any key to continue, and then once I press any key, the program is going to terminate. But instead of that, we want this program to be in a loop. So let's go ahead and use a do while loop. We want only these statements to be repeated. Okay, so let's use a do while loop there. So do all this while some condition. Okay, now after we print the name of the country and the capital, what should we do? We should ask the user whether if he wants to continue. So let's ask that question. So do you want to continue? And obviously the user is going to answer yes or no. So let's store user choice in a variable of type string. So let's call it str user choice, and to read the user choice from the console, we use console.readLine, and again let's convert that to upper. And one more thing that we want to do here is we want to tell the user that he can only enter yes or no. Okay, so now we want to check if this value that the user has entered is S. So we want to check that. So while str user choice, so look at that, I don't get IntelliSense. That's because this variable is declared inside this do block. If we want that to be available here, then we need to declare that outside of this do block. So let's do that. So string str user choice, let's initialize that to an empty string. Alright, so while str user choice equals yes, then keep repeating this piece of code. So we have all this code in a while loop. Okay, and another thing that I want to do here is include another do while loop. So if the user didn't enter yes or no, if he entered any garbage instead of yes or no, then we need to keep asking the same question. So let's put these two lines in another do while loop. So keep doing these statements in case if the user has entered something else apart from yes or no. So if str user choice not equal to no, and if it is not equal to S, that means he has entered some garbage instead of them, in which case repeat these statements. That's what this means. So let's go ahead and run this and see if it works as expected. Okay, look at that, it's asking us to enter the country code. I enter IND, it prints the name of the country and capital. It's asking me, do you want to continue? I type garbage test. Look at that, it keeps asking me the same question. If I type yes, then please enter the country code. If I enter GBR, look at that, it prints the country name and the code, the capital. Do you want to continue? No. Press any key to continue. Once I press any key, the program terminates. Alright, so the output that we expect, we are getting that. But then, did we write this program in the best way possible? Not really. Now if you look at the way we are using this collection class here, this list countries collection, primarily here we are using it for the purpose of finding an object. And to find an object within the collection, we are using a specific string, that's the country code. So probably we can better design this program by using a dictionary. Okay, so if our purpose is primarily to look up values, then dictionary is much better for performance. That's basically because what's going to happen with this find method, it's going to loop through these objects within the list and then check, okay, it checks for the first object, is your code whatever IND. If yes, return the object. No, then go to the next object. Is your code IND? No, go to the next object. So it's going to loop through each object within the collection until a match is found, and once a match is found, it's going to return that object. So obviously if you have too many items within the collection, then the time to find within that list, the object that we are looking for, is also going to increase, because it's going to loop through all the objects. Okay, but then whereas when it comes to dictionary, they are very efficient in finding objects using keys. Okay, so in this case, dictionary would be a much better choice for performance. So find method of the list class loop through each object in the list until a match is found. So if you want to look up a value using a key, dictionary is better for performance over list. So use dictionary when you know the collection will be primarily used for lookups. Okay, so let's rewrite this program using a dictionary. So instead of list of countries, I'm going to create a dictionary, and obviously when we create a dictionary, we need to specify a key as well. So the key for this dictionary is going to be string, because the country code is a string, and the value is going to be the country object itself. And let's call this dictionary countries. And then obviously we want to create a new dictionary. Okay, so to this dictionary, let's go ahead and add items. So dictionary countries dot add. Obviously we need to specify the key as well. So the key is going to come from the code property. So we want the country code to be its key, and the value is going to be the country object itself. Alright, so let's make copies of this. So this is going to be 5, 4, 3, 2. And similarly we need to change here 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so we have our dictionary right now. Now, how to look up a value using dictionary? Simply use dictionary countries of specify your key. So where are we going to get the key from? str country code, this variable. So we are going to pass that, and look at what this dictionary will return. Obviously this dictionary is going to return a country object back. Okay, now we're going to have a slight problem with this code. That's because if the entered code is not found within the dictionary, so if I enter country code like test, then this line is going to throw an exception. So before we try to look up a key, we need to check if that key exists within the dictionary, and the way we do that is by using contains key function. So I'm going to invoke this contains key and then pass the key. So str country code. So obviously this function, what is it returning? It's returning a boolean, true or false. If the key is present, it's going to return true, in which case, look up the key's value within the dictionary. If the key is not present within the dictionary, then this result country will be null. So if result country is null, we'll print that message country not valid. Otherwise, we'll print the name of the country in capital. The rest of the program remains unchanged. Here, we are now using a dictionary instead of a list. So let's run this. Oh, this build errors. Let's check that. So we need to include those brackets. So let's run this now. Okay, please enter country code. Let's enter IND. So name of the country in capital. Do you want to continue? S. So it asks the country code to enter again. Let's say GBR. So we get the output as expected. Do you want to continue? I type, garbage. Again, it keeps asking the same question. When I type no, the program is going to terminate. Okay. All right. Now we have seen, creating a simple console application. Let's create a simple web form as well. Okay, look at that. This is what we want to achieve. On a web form, we need 3 text boxes. The first text box should should ask the user to enter the country code. If I enter an invalid country code, then we want a message like this: country code not found. On the other hand, if we enter a valid country code, then we want to display the name of the country and its capital. Let's see how to achieve this. So I already have created a web application here, an ASP.NET web application. The first step is to obviously add the country class. So let's add a class file, and maybe let's call that country.cs. And then into this class, let's copy the country definition and paste it. from our console application. Alright, the next thing is to add a web form. So let's go ahead and add a web form, and let's call it webform1.aspx, and then let's set the style attribute. Alright, now let's quickly design this web form. So we need a table with two TDs. Okay, so we need basically 4 rows, and each row should contain 2 TDs. So a TR, let's include a TD, and then another TD here. Right, so let's make copies of this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alright, in the first row, what do we want? We want this text country code and text box. So let's say country code, and then we need a text box. So let's drag and drop that from the toolbox. So we need 2 other text boxes. So let's make a copy of this and then put into these TDs. Alright, and then one more thing is we need a border for this table. So let's set the border. So we need a table tag in the first place. We directly have tr within the div tag. So let's move that closing table tag right here. Alright, so to this table, let's go ahead and set the style attribute, and then maybe let's set border to 1 pixel, solid black color. Alright, and maybe let's call this txt country code, because that's in the first text box we'll enter country code, and in the next row we want to display the name of the country, so that will be the label, and maybe let's call this txt name, and then in the final text box we are going to display capital, and let's call this text box txt capital maybe. Alright, and then in the last table row we want a label control, which is going to display a message if the country code is not found. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have just one TD here, but then the width of that TD should span across 2 TDs. So let's use call span equals 2, and then let's drag and drop a label control there. Alright, and then we don't want any text initially within the label, so let's get rid of this property, and then we want the fore color to be red, so let's set that to red. Alright, so we have designed the web form. Alright, now within the code behind file, first of all, whenever the text in the text box changes, we want to immediately post back to the web server. So let's go ahead and set auto post back property to true. And then obviously this text box raises text changed event. So double click that, the event handler will be generated. So here we are going to write the code. So within the page load, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the same code from our console application. So we're going to create the country objects, and we are going to create that dictionary. Okay, so here we have the dictionary, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this dictionary in a session variable. Maybe let's call it countries data. So the name of the dictionary is dictionary country, so let's put it within the session variable. And the reason why I'm doing that, I'm putting it in the session variable, is we don't want to be building this countries dictionary every time we load the page. Okay, we load it once and then retrieve it from the session. So if the web form, this dictionary can be used on different web forms as well, and when this web form is loaded multiple times, this piece of code will not be executed, because we are going to put a condition here: if execute this piece of code only if session of countries data equal to null, meaning in the session if we don't have any countries data, only then try to create the list and then populate try to create the dictionary and then populate it with these items. and then we put that in session. And within the text changed event of the drop down list, what we are going to do, we are going to simply retrieve the dictionary out of the session variable. So let's copy that. So we are going to get a dictionary from the session variable. So let's create a variable of type dictionary. The key is going to be string, and the object is going to be, the value is going to be country object. So let's call this dictionary countries. Okay, now whatever we get back from the session, it will be an object, it will be of type object, so we need to typecast that to be of type dictionary. So let's use the typecast operator and typecast that. Okay, at this point we have our dictionary of customers. So what I'm going to do here is copy this piece of code. So if dictionary countries dot contains key, so if this dictionary contains the key, so where are we going to get the key from? The user is going to enter the key within this text box, txt country code. So let's use that text box here. Txt country code dot text is going to give us the country code, but then we need to convert that to upper. In case if the end user enters it in lowercase, we still need to find it. So the same code, let's copy it there. So if the dictionary contains that key, then return the key's value from the dictionary. Else, store null within this variable. And if result country is null, what we want to do, this is not a console application, this is a web application. So we want our text box txt name.text to be populated with result country dot name, and similarly we want txt capital text box to be populated with capital. Okay, and then we also want to, we have a label here which we are using to display the message country code not found. So let's give it a meaningful ID. So let's call it LBL message, and within our code behind file, if the country code is found, then simply set the text of this label to an empty string. Okay, that's because if the previous time the error was displayed, and next time when you enter a valid country code, we want that to be cleared. Okay, that's why we are setting to empty text here. And then if it's not null, obviously we have found it. Oh, so if it's null, obviously what does that mean? We didn't find it, in which case we want to display an error message within the label. So country code not valid. Okay, let's copy that and paste it here. Let's set it to an empty string. Okay, so if it is not null, then within the text boxes display the name in capital. As simple as that. So let's go ahead and run this now. So let's enter a valid country code, so GBR, and look at that, the moment I click away, I find name in capital. If I enter an invalid country code not valid. And one more thing that we want to do is we want to clear these two text boxes, because for test country code these are not the name in capital. So let's do that. So what we need to do here is txt capital dot text equals empty string, and similarly txt name dot text equals an empty string. Right, let's run this one more time. Test, look at that, country code not valid. If we enter a valid country code, we see that, and if I again enter test, it gets cleared, country code not valid. Alright, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.